Welcome to NeedleXChange, conversations on the art of thread. I'm Jamie Chalmers, aka Mr. X-Stitch, and today I'm interviewing Manuela Caniato. In this first part of our conversation, Manuela shares her path from linguistics and Italian literature to a deep fascination with fashion's cultural role. We dive into why clothes hold memory, why shoes can be windows to the soul, and how consumer culture shapes identity. It's a thoughtful look at the threads that connect fashion and meaning. For another interesting look at the social value of objects, consider NeedleXChange's 19 and 20 with Dr. Isabella Rossner, curator at the Royal School of Needlework. And if you enjoy this episode, please share it with a friend who loves textiles. I'll be back next week for a deep dive into Manuela's art. So until then, enjoy the show. I was interested by the fact that you did linguistics and then you did fashion communication.
Yeah.
I'm interested, like sometimes if you're lucky in life, you can look back at the things you've done and realize that they made sense for where you are now. And I am interested if that is a perspective that you have, because it's an interesting mix. Linguistics being language and fashion being a different kind of language, arguably.
Absolutely. Oh, what a difficult question. So,
I'm just coming out swinging.
All right. So I tend not to have regrets. So I'm not built up like that. So I don't regret anything. But things were very different in the way that no internet meant a lot of lack of knowledge in many sectors. So just to give you an example, I think, you can maybe remember, but textile art is a concept that for me didn't exist until much later, thanks to the internet and Pinterest and Instagram or whatever. I mean, the digital communication we take for granted now. So I wanted to become a copywriter in an advertising agency, and I shared this dream with, I think, thousands of young people in the 80s. And so I studied Italian at the university because there was also the type of studies we had access to were limited. I mean, you wanted to study communication, you had to study Italian literature and Latin. And so I graduated in Latin and Italian with a specialization in communication. Okay, and so I did linguistics. And then I started working in an advertising agency, and I found it the most boring job that could exist.
Oh, no.
And all the glamour that I had imagined doing ads and reclam of many types, that was terribly boring. So I didn't like it at all, and I started teaching. And what I had available was teaching Italian. And then, since there was no formal study of fashion history in Italy yet, it had still to come much later on. And so my family had always worked in the field of fashion, and I tried to work at the university in the sector that was closer to my interest, and it was sociology of culture, sociology of fashion. And then I worked there for quite some years, and then I decided to move to Belgium to follow my husband, who's a Belgian. And then here I had to start from scratch, and I had to offer Italian, of course, as a foreign language. And since I had already taught Italian at school in Italy, I could exploit my career. And here Italian had two branches mainly. One was teaching at grown-ups in community schools, which I did, and one was the university. And the university, I taught Italian as a second language for long, but to be able to keep my teaching positions, I had to do a PhD. And for me, the natural choice was linguistics. And but that's how it went. So at the same time, I kept on teaching fashion history both in Belgium, but mainly in Italy. And I taught for many years a course in English at a consortium of different universities, and I really enjoyed that a lot. So, going back to your question, do I regret studying Italian? No, I don't, because it put bacon on the table for years, both in Italy and Belgium. So I was very, very happy to do that. Would I have a choice now? I would probably do something completely different. But I think many people, no?
Yeah. But the thing I'm interested in is, can you look back and realize that even though that was the path you chose, some of the things you've learned are now coming back to be useful? I think that's what I was trying to get to. You understand, like, I'm interested in the language of fashion. I'm interested in how new fashions emerge, because it's like quite a commercial enterprise. And so if you can enlighten me so that I can talk and sound clever about that topic, I would be very grateful.
Oh, I can't enlighten anyone, but no, the dynamic, the way we follow fads and fashions has always been extremely fascinating for me. Why do we do things? How do we get influenced by the people around us, social media? I mean, what gets into us that pushes our identity to one direction instead of another? What is behind it? Well, there are many answers from much better academics than me, of course, but do I have a personal question? Yes. My personal question is the fascination for technical advancement materials and how you use that to express your identity, indeed. Okay, so in that respect, language, fashion is a language, and a language we talk every day. I mean, we do not go around naked. And so the moment we choose whatever, we are expressing ourselves, our way of looking at life, our belongings, our part of us that we want to be public, because we are putting on our body, we are wearing them, and we are also expressing sentiments and feelings. I mean, we keep pieces of clothes that belong to our beloved one that have departed. We have pieces of clothes of our children. We save clothes and fashionable objects that have shaped our lives. And so these objects have a sort of magic power, and being fashionable is part of the power, because if they weren't fashionable, we probably wouldn't have access to them, wouldn't have bought them, wouldn't have known of them. And so a type of game, for instance, or a Barbie doll with a specific dress that refers to a movie. I mean, all these objects have symbolic power, and this symbolic power is the one we buy together with the object, or we attribute to the object. So if you have a Gucci bag, you do not just have an object built by with a lot of knowledge and competence. You also have the whole fabulous word of Gucci around it. You have both of them at the same time. And if the bag has belonged to, I don't know, your old aunt who has given it to you, it's also an extra dimension that gives to that object real magic power.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, I mean, the thing, I'm fascinated, right? Because there's two things I'm thinking about now. And one is, I was reminded of The History of Colour in Textiles, which is a book I've referred to before by Dr. Susan K. Williams, who was the former chief executive of the Royal School of Needlework. And one of the things that always sticks with me is this point when textiles and embroidery was used to create art, but they didn't have the technology at the time to be able to produce certain colours in textiles. So someone might do a painting of a landscape and the sky would be blue, but they weren't able to create that in the technology. And so compromise has to be made. And that and the discovery of these technologies means that fashion is somewhat dictated by society, isn't it? It's the thing. So it's not just a pair of trousers. It's like the social story that we're inside. And as you said, that then comes with a marketing layer. So you get this associated prestige, don't you? Certain things are cool, certain things aren't cool. And whatever that tipping point is where an item becomes cool. I've recently, for some reason that I can't explain, but I think it's because I'm a middle-aged man, I've decided that Nike Air Max trainers are really cool now. About 30 years too late in the process, but I've got a pair and I like wearing them and it makes me feel very cool. But it's taken me time to do that, and I'm cognizant of like what goes on in the back of my head to make me choose that, because it's a symbol, isn't it? I'm making a statement by choosing those shoes that I am akin to certain social groups or something like that, or I'm trying to be young and failing. So I'm interested in that. And then the other thing,
do you know why you like them now? It's not physical, it's just symbolic, because you might also like the physical sensation they give to your body.
There's a bit of that. I know that the older you get, the more comfortable you like your shoes. And I once ran a marathon, and the trainers I had for the marathon were the most comfortable shoes I've ever had in my life. So there's a bit of that. They're very comfortable. But at the same time, I think they make a certain statement. And I don't wear them all the time. But if I'm going to somewhere, this sounds dreadful now I'm saying it out loud. If I'm going to somewhere where I want to impress somebody, but I don't want to do it very obviously, then I do it through my shoes. Like, I think shoes are quite I've got a whole thesis about shoes that are the windows to the soul, because you can look at a person, but you can tell who they are by the shoes they're wearing. And, oh God, this is sad now I'm saying this out loud, but my daughters have recently changed schools and none of the parents know me. So now I'm wearing cool shoes to just let them know that I'm all right, but without it being obvious. That's very sad.
So imagine the symbolic meaning you have attached to these shoes. Imagine, it's amazing. I mean, they're so important, so meaningful. Just a simple pair of shoes. So
yeah,
all the rest we're wearing have in different degrees this symbolic value, and that's why we get attached to it. And
yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because you can see it. I think sometimes people don't necessarily realize it. I know the game I'm playing with my shoes, which is why it's very sad to say it out loud now. I apologize to anybody who's listening. The other thing that it made me think, though, is about like decorative mending and this philosophy that says that rather than throw away your clothes, we owe it to ourselves to mend our clothes. And there are many people I can think of who've used decorative mending, again, as a version of storytelling. So not only do you have an heirloom, but you have an heirloom that you are placing stamps upon, and in doing so, providing almost like some kind of infographic about your story with those clothes.
Yeah, there is indeed a fashion revolution taking place in the way that, well, there's a reaction against the abuse of production, and especially in the world of fast fashion. But, well, also this is a bit of a dream, because actually also high fashion and big brands overproduced. The change has started with these conglomerates. I mean, in the year 2000s, when fashion objects have become really fashionable. So you do not just buy one object for the rest of its life and your life, which is very long, because a bag could last easily 30, 40, 50 years. So you buy it because it's the it thing of the season. And that is a process that now has been criticized heavily. And, well, I kind of agree. There are textile artists that refuse to work in the fashion industry exactly because of that, because the waste and the amount of overproduction that is really a sign of fashion. It's problematic. It's problematic because we produce an incredible amount of waste in terms of textiles. It's the second most polluting industry after weapons. It's terrible. Yeah. Well, we have to think about it and try to recycle as much as we can. And visible mending is one way to go, and it's hard.
Yeah, there was a documentary series in the UK, maybe like 20 years ago, called The Century of the Self, which was looking at how psychology was used to transform people from needing things to wanting things. And that was done like post-war, so it was quite sophisticated. And now we're like 60, 70 years down the line. It's insurmountable, isn't it? You think for all the make, do and mend culture, fast fashion and trend setting still going to outwin because it's like powered. It's powered by commerce, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And honestly, don't think we are reacting enough to it. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say, because a younger generation use a lot of apps for secondhand clothes, which is good. Okay, so makes you hope. Okay, so they use something and then they sell it, and somebody else can use it and be happy with it. It's a very good thing, but still, I don't know. I don't know if it's something we think of easily. I mean, there's also for the type of textiles we use in at home, linen, towels, these type of things are just, I'm afraid they're still thrown away and discarded. Just like that.
So I'm gonna step forward the conversation now because I'm quite pleased with the way this is evolving in my head. The thing that then is interesting is with my funky trainers, at some point I am going to not find them funky anymore. My tastes will change as they always do. The object that I consider to be beautiful now will no longer be considered beautiful. There will be a sort of decay in the beauty. And if that isn't the smoothest segue into talking about the fundamental thesis of your latest pieces of work, then I don't know what is. How'd you like that?
Yes, it is. There is a fundamental decay in us and in our bodies and in our objects and the things we like and the things we deem important. And yes, my last body of work tries to talk about it, to express it, because it's a series of portraits of women, and these portraits are damaged and changed by my intervention with embroidery. And my inspiration comes from, well, of course, like always, many things, but one thing of the many was a visit to a castle in Germany when there is a gallery of beauties. So in this gallery you have 48 portraits of the most beautiful women of the era. It was the Romantic era. And we look at these portraits and we don't recognize a single one of them. Of these beauties, they were the it girls, the influencers, of the times. We have no idea who they are. And still, I mean, they were beautiful princesses or queens, or, well, there was also a local girl, but most of them were celebrities, famous women, and also the painters were famous, so everybody was famous, and we have no idea who they are now, completely forgotten, completely gone into oblivion, and then lost to us. And so that is what will happen to us, possibly. Yeah, so I wanted to transfer on my work this sense of damage, decay, decadence, disappearing, and oblivion. And so I started thinking, okay, how could I do that? Well, my answer is with embroidery, because that's what I like to do. And also, how do I embroider these women so that they are damaged? So I started doing cards and changing the faces and putting things like embellishments, beads, gold work on top of them so that they are not recognizable anymore. And so that's how it started, yes.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. It's really interesting because you're sort of, you're taking these images and applying the wearing of time on them in quite a visceral kind of way. But it's interesting, like you say, how renowned those people were at that time and how they're not now and how transient the whole thing is. And I think that's the real beauty, isn't it? That's why we have to admire those people at the time, right? Because we must realize that it won't last forever.
Yeah, no, it will last 5 seconds because well, very, very, very short moment of youth and beauty and yes, and all, and they are so important, youth and beauty, still now. I mean, these old portraits are old, but it's the same thing now with images of celebrities, and it's so transient and doesn't last. Still, it's so important for us, and so well, I wanted to show the decadence of it.
What's it like to do that? How does it feel to uglify a thing or to cast that damage? Because there's a certain brutality to it, no?
It is. There is. There's a certain brutality, and that's me. So it's my sick imagination, and I also like a lot of skin diseases, and so I like to imagine like the plague, on the beautiful skin, because in all these portraits, these women are represented with this fantastic white skin, very smooth, perfect, and say, how can I damage that? Okay, so put a bubo on top of it, like in the plague, with beads, big beads, and on top of them organza, so that it looks like the plague. That's the idea.
Yeah, but actually, it's funny, isn't it? Because, and I've got another conversation of a similar vein with another person who won one of the prizes. Congratulations, by the way, third place mixed media. Good.
Thank you very
job
much.
there.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, and it was lovely because there are 6 judges, so it's like a good balance there. You definitely always with the prize. I know what I like, and thankfully it's been quite validated this time. Obviously got great taste, I'm sure. But no, because there's so many judges, it's quite nice to see, when people respond in the same directions. The thing about the work is you've uglified it, but then you've used beauty to do that. You've used very delicate stitching. You've used gold work. You've used all these techniques that are very fine and very kind of high fashion, very fine art. So there's a further contrast, isn't there? They've been damaged by beauty.
Yes, indeed, because there must be some consolation somewhere. And the only consolation I can find of this decadence of ourselves, our bodies, our souls is beauty. And so, again, I wanted to try to express this contradiction that they become ugly, but at the same time they are beautified by ugliness. And I like to work fine. I started my embroidery practice with needlepoint. I really loved it, but it was always too thick for me. And so during the years, I went to a thinner and thinner and thinner thread. And so now I use a lot of metal thread, for instance, but I never use it full. I divide it into all the little threads in it. So let's say in the DMC Diamant, there are 3 threads in one thread, and I divide it and use one. So the thinner for me, the better. I also use very, very small beads. And yes, indeed, I try to learn from haute couture, high fashion techniques. Though I do not use the crochet de Luneville, this hook they use, because unfortunately, you need to put it in a way that you cannot move the work around, and I do not like that. I like to be free with my both hands and move. So I don't use a hoop, for instance. Yeah, that's my big secret. I don't use a hoop generally.
Yeah.
Only sometimes with organza.
But when you look at the detail of your work, it's quite surprising you don't use a hoop, because I would have thought in some ways that surface tension is a useful tool for precision.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
When I work on cotton and linen, I always use an interface.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Because indeed the problem of if you use gold metal threads, it tends to ruffle a bit the work. So you need interface. When I work on organza, I use a hoop when I need to put beads and metal embellishment, etc. When I do proper stitching, I do not use the bead anymore, because I like to have the organza around my left hand finger. So like this.
Right.
Okay. All right. So this gives me the possibility to go smaller, because I really get into the tiny plies of the fabric.
Right. Are you self-taught with needlework?
Yes, I am self-taught. My granny taught me how to do embroidery, crochet, and knitting, and whatever, when I was very young, like 4, etc. And then I had to use for her a hoop. But as to the rest, no, I'm self-taught, and I think, yes, you can see that also in my work, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it feels, and this isn't me. I've got I do a bit of cross stitch. I've got no position of strength talking here, but I think about some of the students in the Royal School of Needlework and their beadwork techniques, and they're very much out on a slate flat, that kind of situation that you said you don't enjoy. So it's interesting then, because you're still using precision and, I mean, choosing to use really thin thread. So in a way, you're making it quite difficult for yourself.
Yeah, I do.
Is that part of the process?
I don't know. I do admire. I really follow the Royal School of Needlework, and I really admire what they're doing. They're so precise and so regular, but I cannot stay still for such a long time. They're younger than me, much younger than me, and so the body is better, and they can stay still, but I cannot anymore. I think that makes a difference.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Do you know what I mean? Please don't assume that I'm saying you're doing it wrong, because I really am not. I sometimes, if I ever talk to students in the Royal School of Needlework, I try and, even though they're like 20, I'm just like, have you heard of yoga? Every now and again, just do a little bit of stretching, even at that early age. The rest of us are just solid lumps by the time we've finished doing it. But it's interesting, because I just wonder whether from what you've said, you take a piece of work, you make some pretty big decisions in terms of the embroidery, which can come thick and fast, like the wounds. And then when you start adding the gold work and the beadwork, it's almost like delicate repair, but it's like making delicate scars.
Yes. Or repair the delicate scars. I already did cutting, first I cut because I like it. I like to make holes. I really do. It's maybe making holes is one of my favorite parts.
I like it a lot. Do you think there's something in there? And I might be overthinking this, because I can, but you've got this understanding about the perspective of fashion. You've got this understanding about what beauty has meant historically and how trivial it can be, and yet how much value is placed on it. So then when you're brutally destroying a piece of embroidery, is there a certain anarchy there? Is it an tell me about that?
Yes. everything is so serious. Come on, can't we just make a bit of fun of all this art and embroidery and fashion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes, definitely a bit of anarchy, a bit of making fun of everything, in myself included, myself first place.
It's quite a left turn that you've taken, because your previous work felt like it was a bit more kind of documentary, charming, quite lightweight, simple stitching. I'm thinking you've got lots of pictures of sort of family interaction, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I felt it was a diary. It was a journal. My embroidery. Well, many years, actually. I felt I had to report the reality around me, because I tend to forget things that happen. And so not to forget them, I tended to report them, as you said, journalistic approach to it. But then I wanted to change. I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to express sentiments that didn't find a way out with this journalistic approach.
Do you feel like this is the thing? Sometimes, isn't it, we talk about, just putting in the repetitions of doing some work so that your voice can be found. There's plenty of people that talk about that, just making the flow happen, and then being aware enough to understand that your voices are going, we really need to destroy some things.
Well, it wasn't easy to find a voice. If this is my voice, well, it's my voice now, let's say. Now this is my voice. Okay. It wasn't easy at all to think of myself as a textile artist. That was difficult. And I even gave up producing works, because I felt everything I made had to have a practical purpose. I don't know, bags or making crochet animals to sell for a good cause, or this type of things. So it took a while to find a way where I could feel at ease expressing a voice that had no purpose, no practical purpose.
And is that a voice inside your head, or is that constructed from, I don't know, people around you?
A voice inside my head? No, it's more, I was, like many people, defined by my job, I think, for many years. So what happens when you do not work anymore in social recognized environment? I mean, you keep on working at home and you do your things, but you do not have any social recognition because you are a pensioner. I am a pensioner. So that was, I think, the trigger, because I had to find way to get out of myself and of my room, expressing sentiments, feelings, way of looking at life that weren't there before. And so this decadence, this thought of the change of the body, of being invisible, being a woman of a certain age, had to get out. In the meanwhile, people around you that you love, that seek, and have to deal with difficult moments of their life. And so that also need to get out.